There's a common refrain when COVID cases increase, and it's, our cases are only high because we're doing such a great job in testing. Okay, is that actually true, or is it a convenient excuse? Obviously, if there were no testing at all, we'd have no reported cases, and of course we'd also not know how the virus is spreading, and that's bad. In contrast, if we tested every single citizen, we would find, say, mild and asymptomatic cases that we may otherwise miss. So while this claim sounds like a poorly thought out excuse, there could be some veracity to it. To test that, let's look at the data. To answer this question, we will specifically consider the daily reported cases and number of tests performed in the province of Alberta, from when the whole pandemic started in March through the end of September. This data is available on the provincial government's website, which is a great resource, and the link is down in the description. What we have here are two time series. Now, as a side note, we aren't going to actually analyze these time series directly, but we're going to look at the first difference, which is what we'd call a stationary process. However, the subtleties of all of this is beyond the scope of what I want to talk about in this video, so we'll just highlight that and leave it for the future. For these series, we can try to fit a linear regression to predict the total number of reported cases in a given day from the number of tests performed on the same given day. And what do we find? No relation at all. But of course that's the case, because it takes time to run a COVID test, which means that we should actually consider offsetting one series by another, and then looking for some sort of relation. So when looking at two time series, we can consider the cross-correlation, which tells us how correlated two time series are at various lags. A lag is an offset in time, and correlation will tell us how linearly related two series are at a given offset or lag. So let's look at a plot of the data. At lag 0 days, we have a negligible cross-correlation. At lag 1, we have a bigger but still negligible cross-correlation. But, and here's the cool part, at lag 2, we see a really strong positive correlation. And for all the other lags, it's just negligible noise. What I love about this strong signal is that it tells us that it takes approximately 48 hours to report the results of a COVID test here in the province of Alberta. And that signal is hidden within this noisy data. Fitting a linear regression to the data, we find that for every additional 1,000 COVID tests, we find about 14 new positive cases. So to be fair to the politicians, yes, more testing will identify more cases at a rate of about 1.4%. But the R-squared value is only a bit over 20%, indicating that increased testing only accounts for a small portion of the increase in the total reported cases. Fitting an Arima model to this time series, we get an AR1 process with estimated coefficient of negative 0.3. What does that mean? Well, that means that the previous day's reported cases influence the current day's reported cases, and this time we get an R-squared value a bit over 30%. What this means is that while the number of tests performed 2 days ago and the number of reported cases 1 day ago significantly influence the number of reported cases today, there's still a lot of unexplained variability in this COVID time series. Lastly, it's important to know that this 1.4% number that we estimated is not the prevalence of COVID in the entire Alberta population. Right? Most citizens who get tested already have mild or moderate symptoms, meaning that about 1.4% of that specific subpopulation appear to be testing positive for COVID. And it's always good to remember, where is your sample coming from? In summary, we find that yes, the number of tests performed in Alberta does influence the number of reported COVID cases. But most of the variability in the COVID cases is not explained by the number of tests, hence the politicians' claim is only about 20% correct and 80% wrong, so sorry about that. What other factors are contributing to the rise and fall in COVID cases in the province of Alberta and elsewhere? To answer that, we'll have to take another look at the data.